I noticed that new business for the cafe hours, they're closing at 6:30, not 6. I just want to make sure somebody didn't think that I was exaggerating the time that they're closing early. Just for the record. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve last week's meeting minutes?
I moved to approve last week's meeting.
Thank you. Moving on to speaker's podium, we do have somebody in the room. Would you like to introduce yourself and say something, Mr. D?
Sure. Hi, thanks for letting me be here today. My name is D. Rose. I'm here because I need to make a plug, not a shameless plug, a regular plug. We're recruiting our second class of RAs for next school year. So the application is up, available online. If anyone is interested in being an RA, that will require you to weigh out your student leadership involvement or SGA or rest of stuff because it's a big commitment. And so we don't want to you to overstretch yourself, so stretch yourself too thin to where you can't do everything that you want to do. So we have an info session tonight at 4 p.m. in 102 downstairs. So if you want more information, or you can go online to learn more about the application process.
Thank you. Moving on to officer reports. Mr. President, as you all can see, is not here, so that is why I am the chair today. For Vice President, my only report is officer shadowing, which all the other executive board members will be talking about in a few minutes. Pretty much, if you want to be Vice President in the upcoming year, please get with me so we can work on the shadowing process. See that how you can see how it actually works, what it entails, the background side of it. Not so much just that you see my face at a meetings, this is how I do, this is what I say. But so much of the work that you do behind the scenes, and not so much in front of all the senators. And then if that's something that you are interested, please email me. My schedule is very busy, but we can always make something work, and I can always work with you to get that going. So just let me know as soon as you can. Senator Nakayo?
Does the officer have to be in good standing to shadow?
The senator? Yes. Any other questions? Okay. Senator Chris Marshall.
Could you define what you mean by good standards?
Good standing means you are not under presidential review. If you've already been in a meeting with Mr. President, then he needs to let the rest of us know that you are clear or that you are not under presidential review anymore. Senator Isaiah, did you have a question?
No, my question
Moving on to our finance officer. So my report is the same as Berenice's, or Madam President, Vice President, I'm sorry. This week particularly is a good week to shadow me, specifically because I'm like generally making the schedule for the Jaggers Den Committee. Along with that, you'll be able to, if you do want to shadow me and you're not part of the Jaggers Den Committee, you are allowed to be part of the hearings, just so you know what's entailed in that, within that, those hearings. Along with that, like I also have my binder if you want to flip through my binder to see what the content is in that binder. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me, group me, if you have my number, feel free to text me.
Hello guys, you guys are looking very strong today. The only event that we have upcoming is on Valentine's Day. So we're gonna have the fun photos and the chocolate covered strawberries, and from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. in the FH Atrium. So just let everyone know about that. And then just a reminder that again, that we will be leaving for NACA, the officers, from Friday the 16th through the 21st. So that's why we don't really have any events going on through that time. Did someone have a question? I thought I saw something. And then we also have the UNT Jag Awards applications are going to be opening on February 19th. So there's various things that you can get awards for academics, for best SGA member, from fraternity woman, fraternity man, something like that. There's like a lot of them. So if you guys have ideas of people that you guys want to submit for, please do fill out those forms. They should be open. They'll be posted on the website. Usually they send out an email to everyone to let them know, to encourage them to apply for people. So it's a good chance for everyone to get recognized for their, best abilities, for being a good person, a good leader, and all those good things. And again, if you guys want to shadow me for the programming officer position, please do let me know. On like Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I'm usually in the FHA office from 1 to 3. If those times don't work for you, let me know, guys, because I really guys want you guys to know the best idea of what the programming is. That way you guys can see what those opportunities are for you guys. Make good choices.
Real quick, you might have covered this in the previous SGA meeting. Can you tell me, as far as like shadowing you guys, you have to be a senator, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
No student that hasn't been in SGA for any point in time may not run for an officer position.
Is the whole year, or they just need to be a senator for a semester?
It depends on the position that they are applying for. Senator Chris.
Would there be any type of constitutional amendment to put in place to keep senators from running for those positions of president and vice president?
We will talk about that further down in the agenda.
Okay.
Any more questions? Public Relations Officer.
Good afternoon, guys. My report is pretty much the same for shadowing. It is a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of dates that you have to keep up with. But if anybody's interested in the public relations position, please let me know so you can shadow me. It is kind of a lot of work, but it's definitely manageable, especially if you have a good team. But if you have any questions, just let me know.
Parliamentarian Officer.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. So on January 26th, we had a parliamentary procedures for student leaders. So I do have this packet here. I do have a PDF copy of this. I will be emailing you this no later than today. And I just didn't want to print it out just due to saving paper. And it's best records in a computer file. Also, the Robert's Rules of Orders will be, there's going to be an updated Robert's Rules of Order. I had a malfunction with my laptop this morning, so I cannot print the original copy out, and I do not remember the corrections I made. But they will be emailed to each and every one of you today, and like my other officer said, if you want to shadow the parliamentarian officer, it is a whole lot of, it's not too much work, but you do have to put in some work just because you have to keep up with everyone, especially that elections are coming up. That has a lot, I'm going to be involved in that pretty deeply. So if anybody has any questions or wants to shadow me, just go ahead and contact me after the meeting, and I'll for sure meet up with you. Thank you.
Now it's time for senator reports. So if you do have a report, please raise your hand so I can write down your name. Okay. Senator Isaiah.
Last week, I filled up my water bottle at one of the fountains in this building. Noticed that the water seemed pretty dirty. After I let it sit for a little, I thought it was maybe like just the water particles moving around. I let it sit for a little, and I still noticed that it wasn't just particles moving, it was just dirty water. So I went, tested a few other fountains, and the water does not look safe to drink. Yeah.
That'll be all for the reports.
That would be all in our report.
My report is, one of the students had a question about the workrooms on third floor. We have a workroom, but students want to know if students are allowed to go in there because they've put a lock on it, like only staff can put their IDs now to open it. And I can see why it's a problem because professors need to print their test or anything, but students are wanting to know like if they're able to print there, like they're just wondering if they're allowed in there. And two, I know we covered this already, and I'm kind of like skeptical about bringing it up, but I talked to a student and I asked her if she had any complaints about campus, and she heard about the speed bumps and how like we have the cops coming in, and I also told her like, oh, that's been resolved. She's like, well, there's a lot of students on campus whose cars like are really low, so it doesn't matter how like, she's like, I feel like those speed bumps are way, like they're just too tall for my car, and like, it always scrapes her car. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Nakira.
Senator Kyra, let me know if this is the right platform to discuss this, but room requests, a lot of organizations request rooms maybe a day or two before the event, and we're not able to put that in the system. So if you guys can kind of spread the word that we need at least 3 to 5 days, business days, to request a room, and that's it.
Senator Chris.
All right, thank you. Our first report will be on the urban night. We would like to call that Nubian night because the word urban is a cultural offensive word to minimize the culture of a people, their music and their works. So we would like to propose this to be called urban night because it is culturally offensive. We're also Nubian night. We're also thinking with this event on the 28th at 6 to 8 p.m. we would like to have a Egyptian theme and food that is based off an Egyptian diet, such as baked chicken, rice, a vegetable medley, roasted red hummus, and pita chips, which could be purchased from Walmart, and for decorations to be of an Egyptian decoration. On the other point of that, I had a student come up to me about ECI that said for the last 3 weeks or so, ECI had a chef. I went to ECI to kind of to verify that, but they said the food quality was actually a little bit better for the past 3 weeks. So besides just bringing bad news about ECI food quality and price and portion, there is some positive feedback about it as well. Oh, sorry. And also, I would like to address the email situation. On yesterday, there was a email sent out about attendance to the meeting, and there was a list of names in it. I wasn't being hostile in my approach. What I suggested is that we BCC people with a generic message stating that your presence is needed and that it is needed for quorum. The reason that I felt that I should address that is because the secretary keeps notes of who comes to the meetings, and the vice president also gets emails from certain people that follow those procedures. And I felt that since I follow those procedures, attend our meetings and attend our events, that I was somehow justified in my approach to say there's a different process that should have been used at that point. Thank you.
Senator Navarre?
Senator.
I'm sorry, Ms. Nikki, you have a question?
Yes, just a question to the board, or, my Madam Vice President. Am I still the chairman for ECI?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that mean that complaints or issues should still be ran or emailed or talked through me, or? Okay.
Any other questions?
So you can, if you are too busy as you are graduating this semester, you can pass those emails on to me if it doesn't fit through your schedule, or if you're not able to talk to those people face to face. Feel free to email me, because I did take charge of being the officer in charge, well, that will overlook your committee.
Okay. Thank you, really. I was just looking at the minutes from last week, and I noticed there was an ECI complaint on there, and then I wasn't notified about it. So just letting everybody know, as you really did, if you cannot contact me, you can contact me really with your ECI concerns. That's it.
Thank you, Senator Nathan. Senator Navarre?
Just that in the spot there aren't any utensils, and how there is a microwave, they want utensils so you don't have to walk all the way downstairs to the cafeteria to get it, and then also some napkin.
Senator Dean?
Senator Dean, the cart that goes to the bus station stops at a certain time. We still have students that come in a little bit later. Is there a way that we can get students or get something where somebody can pick them up even at 9 or 10? I mean, I figure since the school's open until 12, police officer, and I know police officers that have their own thing going on, but somebody can pick them up, possibly, potentially. I don't know what the solution is for that, but I don't think that students should have to walk from the bus station to, it's just too late at night. It's too late at night.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Senator Whitney, sorry.
That's okay. My report
Point
is
of
in
order.
regards to,
I think the gentleman had a question. He had his hand up.
Just back to the dark, you can call, campus police. I do it in the mornings. When I get here at 7, I'll call campus police 5 minutes away, and then they'll send a shuttle out. So if they stop running, I think at 5 p.m., you can call the 972-780-3000. They'll come pick you up.
Senator Dean, to that point, students have stated that they've been calling the number, but they were just given that information that because of the latest that they're not being picked up for that reason that they had to walk. So that may be something that needs to be addressed as well, is when they call to make sure that somebody's there to pick them up, if that's the procedure.
Ms. Whitney, can you take a seat until we finish answering the question? Senator Marshall?
Is it possible to have the police to post signs or decals on the doors at each exit to kind of give them a gist that they can request for escorts, to specifically put in the language to request for an escort to the dark or to your car? Please call this number, because if they're new to the campus, the persons will be unfamiliar. And to have a decal that's static to that door will be very useful to all entrants and exits to both buildings and the res hall.
I can vouch for the point that calling the office over there doesn't always work. Last night I tried to call to get a shuttle to my car, so I walked and was called out, and they did not answer. So sometimes that number just doesn't work.
Senator Dean?
In addition to the number, can we resolve the main issue though, or address the main issue, which is at late at night?
The shuttle service
Okay.
provided.
I want to make sure that's the point as well.
Any other questions in regards to DART and shuttle services? Yes, ma'am.
Madam VP, I'm on the police chief committee as well, so Dean, the main issue that you're bringing up, about that, I will go ahead and talk to, my parties in regards to it, and Madam VP, I can send you an email by Friday.
Okay, thank you. Would that be all for your report?
No, my report, I'm sorry, I was just asking that question. My report is in regards to the criminal justice students. They're wanting to have more classes during the day. They are just saying that it's really limited to whereas if they can only come at night, you know, they don't really have much time, and so they're wanting to open up the door for more classes during the day. That's my.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions? Senator Nikki?
This may not be a big deal, but I just noticed it earlier. Today's General Assembly meeting states dated January 31st.
Thank you. Moving on to student speakers podium, we have one student in the room. Would you like to introduce yourself, or do you have anything to say to us?
Yeah, I'm Joe Pierre. I was just wondering if there was any follow-up regarding the parking permit issue I had last week.
Mr. President did not give me any update, but I will email our advisor and see if she has any update. They're both out of town after today. They won't be back until next week. But I will try and do my best to get that over to you.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to old business. Oh, Senator Isaiah, did you have a question?
Oh, no. My hands.
Okay. Old business, a constitution amendment. Did you want to speak on behalf of that?
Yes. I move that we amend the Constitution to specify that the Vice President and President must be filled by previous SGA members who have experience as a former officer position for 1 year with good standing.
Any questions in regards to the amendment that?
I have another question on the rest of that.
Oh, I need a second first before.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Senator Isaiah.
Is there not currently a clause in the Constitution that states that people who run for vice president or president must be a exec member for a year, or an exec member at all?
So it's always been a continuous thought and incentive in the Constitution that we've always wanted to put in ever since I was a senator, so that dates back to 2015, but we've never officially put it in there, even though it's always been needed and wanted.
So another question. So if that was not in the Constitution at all, why have we been told before this point that that was a requirement?
Programming officer.
Previously, whenever I first became a senator, we had Stephanie, she was our president. Stephanie was put into her position because of the president that we previously had, because we didn't say in our Constitution that we needed to have an experience as an officer before you applied for vice president, VP, or vice president. So because of that issue, we had a president who legit was there for a semester, or not even a full semester if I'm correct, and she dropped out and just left and didn't come back to SGA at all. And that caused a huge issue in everything that we had going on. Student issues as far as like people taking role and responsibility that they need to do. And so Stephanie had to jump in. And so after that happened, they had learned that, well, we need to put this in place because we can't just rush someone into president position, because what if they don't have the experience or know the full abilities of the position for them to actually be successful in it. Because if not, that not only like puts us in a situation to where we can't function as an organization, but we can function to help the student body.
Does that answer your question, Senator Isaiah?
Effectively, yes.
If, I don't know if this would answer your question better, it's just, what you're saying is that in the Constitution where I have been pushing that towards you, the way it's phrased, it was implied, like, but that's why we want to amend the Constitution so it can be completely stated, fully stated. So as of this point, it's not stated, but it was implied. So right now it's open for interpretation. So that's why we want to amend it today.
Any other questions? Senator Marshall? Lieutenant
actually raised their hands first, so we have to let them speak. Unique and,
Unique, did you have
Senator Board.
Well, as far as speaking onto the motion, the question that I had kind of already specified that, what reasons why, or I felt that we need the motion to be said. But I mean, it's just really needed, guys. It's always been implied. That's why everyone already kind of has a knowledge as asking why that isn't it already in the Constitution, because we already know that's how it should be in order for us to be more effective and for us to be a better organization and representing the body.
All right. During the first meeting, right before the end, Laterrence and myself, the president and the advisor asked who will be running for executive positions, and we stated that we'll be running for vice president and president. After which, the advisor stated that within the Constitution and bylaws, there was that amendment in there. I asked her to email me that Constitution because I had the bylaws. We read through and discovered that it was not in there. Upon doing so, following that, we were placed on presidential review in order to prevent us from running and having our names on the ballot. And now we're doing a constitutional amendment to this Constitution in order to prevent myself and Laterrence from running for executive position as vice president and president. These actions are act of gerrymandering, act of blatant disparate impact and treatment. Because of last semester, we requested that if you are African American student and you did have some type of issue, and that you cannot say or have say in what goes on as far as when it comes to executive position, unless you're a part of the body, unless you're willing to step in those leadership positions. So we are running for those positions once the applications are approved. The reason I was placed under presidential review is because my activity log was turned in after the deadline of the first meeting. I brought it in the same day during the Jaggedens meeting, and it was turned into the president and stated that the events that were on the event log was not an SGA event, which was Rock the Vote. That was an SGA event, a partnership between SGA and Phi Beta Sigma. To be on presidential review for technicality, to prevent the ability to run for those positions, shows a blatant actions to prevent two African American students to run for those representations when it was requested by Dr. Chappell, Jennifer, and the Student Government Association for us, if we have any type of concerns or want to be involved or be in a leadership positions, to step up and run for that. And today is a blatant action of disparate impact, disparate treatment, and also gerrymandering, because you prevent the student body from having a voice to vote for candidates that they feel will represent their opinion. So these are blatant actions to prevent two people after the first meeting who stated that they will be running for president and vice president in order to prevent both of us from running for those positions. We have been placed on presidential review for those actions, and also today we're asking for a constitutional amendment and ask for you all through the email to be here in order to pass such actions. You may vote however you want to, but if we are a student government association, we should model ourselves after the democracy of our government that currently runs and not try to prevent people from being elected by the student body to represent their interests on this board. Remember, the G in this is government. We have a government that is divisive, and don't want to listen to each other, and they try to prevent each other from speaking or have leadership roles and pass bills and things of that sort. This is not the type of model that we want to project as far as to the student body. The reason I'm recording this, audio and also video, because like we said, we need the student body to see what goes on within our SGA. And for us to blatantly try to put it in place, even though we have valid reasons, This wasn't brought up until after we expressed our interest in running for executive position. Thank you.
Finance officer was first.
Okay, so, thank you for speaking on your, on the issue.
Report, please, we're running on time.
Okay, so we're doing this to vote on it. We're not gonna go ahead and pass it without your, vote, of course. And then, aside from that, last year I was also prevented from running for VP or president because of, not having experience on the exec board. So it's not just this year that it was implemented. It was also implemented last year. But, yeah, that's all.
Nikki?
Three-part question. Do we have to vote on this?
Yes. Everyone in this room will have a vote at the end of the discussion.
Okay. Number two, just because you put on presidential review, if the president does not mark you as bad standings, then you still can run.
Correct.
Okay. Number three, is what Senator Marshall saying true?
No.
Did this happen?
No.
have
I
a
can
recording.
attest to that. But we will go ahead and go with everyone else that raised their hands, and I can address how you end up on presidential review
Okay.
at the end.
And let me say this, it is, before I feel that anybody in here can take a vote on an amendment like that, I really need to know what grounds or why Senator Marshall feels this way. It needs to be addressed. I understand you're talking about running out of time, but I can't pass or, go with this amendment if what Senator Marshall's saying has any validity to it.
Correct.
So that is my stand, that's how I feel, and thank you.
Unique.
I wanted to note that no one was put under presidential review for you guys not to run for the position. Everyone was put under presidential review because you did not follow your full responsibilities and duties as a senator. That is nothing to aim against you. We've had majority of our senators actually go under presidential review. So it's not anybody who's pulling out anyone. It's just our responsibility and our duties to let you guys know that you guys aren't in good standing so that you guys can become good standing. We don't want you guys to fail, we want you guys to succeed. For us not to put you under pressure is allowing and condoning behavior that we don't want in our SGA. We want you guys to be good. We want you guys to proceed well as a student and an officer or a future officer and senator. And for us not to recognize that, that's setting us all up for failure.
Senator Isaiah.
I'd like to move to postpone this vote, so that we may further discuss the issue until next meeting.
We postponed this from last week to this week. So this constitutional amendment, we couldn't talk about it last week because we didn't meet quorum. Today is the first meeting from the beginning of the semester that we actually meet quorum. Senator Nakira had her hand up.
Senator McIver, and I hope you will support me, Senator Nick, in this, but, I also have been put on presidential review, and, there may be a attack on African Americans, because we negate to take care of our issues. As Senator Marshall stated, he negated to take care of the issue, so maybe it is an attack on African Americans, and we may need to look at this and why we are not on different posters and things like that, and, you know, why we're on review, and we don't have the other positions and executive positions because of our color and not because of us taking care of our business.
Senator Laterrence.
I would like to second the motion. Isaiah said to postpone this vote. Being that we didn't have an email sent to all the SGA members to be here, that we were requesting quorum for a vote on some amendment. Secondly, I oppose the amendment due to the fact that the Constitution wasn't amended during the constitutional process to have that specific clause put in there about having to be on the executive board for a year before running for vice president and presidential positions. And being as such, the viewpoint at this moment that the elections is coming up and that you have two candidates that don't fit the criteria that you may want, and that they fit the criteria of the Constitution, it would be kind of misconstrued that it would be viewed that way. Also, if you put this amendment into the Constitution, it limits the student body, an incoming student body, from ever holding a presidential or vice president position. There is a number of students here that are transfer students. If you come to this university with an associate's degree, there is no way you can be in the SGA for more than 2 years. You would be a senator, and then you would be on the executive board, but you can never hold a presidential position. Secondly, being that part of our Constitution allots a monetary stipend to the executive board, seeing that if you move to put in place something based on the fact that you thought or you wanted it to be that way, you also take a stipend from a student that may qualify for that, and you tell them that basically they aren't, you would basically be saying that your feeling is that they don't qualify because you don't want them to qualify. And also going with what Senator Marshall said, as far as if this is a student body representation, because we are the student government, and our positions are voted on by the students. If the students want that person as a president, vice president, secretary, programming officer, finance officer, or any of the such, then that's the students speaking for what they want, not us speaking for what we want. This isn't about us. This isn't a personal process here for us to decide what we want the student body to be able to do. It should be on the student body. And if this was an amendment, it should probably be, told to the student body. The student body doesn't know half of what we have to go through here. Also, with that being said, the Dr. Chappell and Jennifer did say that if you want representation, then you should go step up and do something about it. So, with it being said that if somebody is stepping up and doing something about it, and when they said or they came and said that they were going to do something about it, or they were going to come into the light, for a constitutional amendment to be done right before we decide to do elections, for a presidential review process to be done right before we decide to go into an election cycle, for shadowing, even though the Constitution says nothing about shadowing and presidential review, it seems like this would be a mischaracter of justice here in the student government to prevent something from happening that you may want. Even though you may not want this, and I understand you wasn't allowed to be an executive or to be a vice president because you weren't on the executive board. As part of the Constitution, it should have been your right to be vice president or president, run for those positions. They shouldn't have stopped you. They stopped you. I'm sorry that happened, but that was a mischaracter of the Constitution that allows before you for them to have done that at this time.
Well, it's just a role that they've had. So, I mean, she was kind enough to listen. So, I mean, if you were a transfer student, like you said, then that's just something they would have to miss out on, but they would still participate in SGA, so that should be enough to be involved. And then how you and Chris, with Blue Turns and Christopher, want to run into the vice president and president, like throughout last semester and this semester, everything you guys have pointed out, it has been like controversial, and it makes us all feel kind of weird, and like we don't want to talk about it because it's not necessary. So if you guys want to be in those positions, think about how it would make everyone else feel, because since you guys brought a lot of trouble just being a senator, if you guys were in those exec positions, it would be like more of a, okay, what are you guys gonna talk about? What are you guys gonna bring about? Like, sometimes you don't wanna hear it because it's not necessary, and then sometimes you guys don't think that's portion, but I'm like, going really
Thank you.
in-depth.
Unless it's questions about why or details on the amendment, we're gonna go ahead and move on. I'm gonna address what you two were saying. Out of our 18 Senate members, 5 are not under presidential review. Only 5 senators are not under presidential review. Not because of race, not because of how you look, not because of whatever it is that you two are saying that it is. It is because each one of the senators signed a senator contract at the beginning of your term. Each senator turned in that contract by the deadline, and if not, at a really late deadline. And everything is documented, dated, and put in a file for you. Out of the 5 senators that are not under presidential review, they turned everything before the deadline. That was either the deadline of the first meeting for the spring semester or the last meeting for the fall semester. Everybody else on here that is not under presidential review, not only did they complete everything on their senator contract, but they completed everything on our bylaws and constitution for SGA. Now, if you have questions and you want to see your documentation, I've always said it, you can always come to me, you can always contact me as your VP, as your head of the Senate, as your senator representative for the whole Senate body. I've always said that you can come to me, ask me questions, talk to me, I can show you your folder, I can pull it out and see what you have and what you don't have, what you're missing and what you're not missing. SGA events, we've always specified what SGA events. There's always been confusion on SGA events. Even Skinner has addressed those situations. Now, if you turned in your senator log and you have 10 events, 9 events, 7 events, I'll take it if they have a date and a signature. I've been very lenient. Isaiah messaged me this week, last week, talking about no SGA officer was at this event. How can I get this event signed? Come to me, I'll take your word for it because you're communicating to me that you were at an event when no other officer was present. That's communication. That's how this is supposed to run, with communication. A great example of communication, Ms. Whitney Fagan. Every time she has something come about work, even if it's an hour before a meeting, she emails me, but not only does she email me, as it says that we're supposed to do, she messages me and says, did you get my email? I'm not gonna be at the meeting. Anybody that needs to miss a meeting, I've always been very lenient. If you talk to me in person and you told me I'm not gonna be at that meeting, but you talked to me in person, you found me before the time of that meeting, I excuse you from that meeting, even if I don't have documentation of it. I've always tried to be very lenient with each one of the senators because I know everyone is very busy with their schedules. I myself am very busy with my own schedule and the different organizations that I'm involved in. So no, Nikki, this does not have anything to do, or at least in my perspective, as your representative, as the head of the Senate, with any of the accusations that I was accused of earlier today. I feel like I've done a very decent job as vice president. I feel like I've held everyone accountable for what they're supposed to do. And I think I've held everyone accountable for what they sign off on that senator contract. I'm not gonna put anyone on the spot. I don't like doing that. The email I sent, and there was further conversations back and forth through email on that, was a friendly reminder, as stated in the subject, of the people that were supposed to be at General Assembly meetings, because either I do not have your class schedule yet, even though it was supposed to be submitted to me weeks ago, which means if I don't have your class schedule or your work schedule, I don't know where you are during these meeting times. I don't know if you're just choosing not to show up. I don't know if you're just taking a nap. I don't know if you forgot and you don't want to be part of SGA anymore. I've reached out to everyone and asked for them. If you are in class during this time, you are excused and you do not have to be in this meeting. If you are at work during this time, you do not have to be in this meeting. But I need proof of that. And I've asked for proof of that from the very beginning of our SGA term. If there was any miscommunication at any point, I apologize for that. But I feel like I've been very clear in everything that I've asked for, and this is why we are doing this now. Now, there was a second motion on that amendment, and we can either vote on it, or we can have another vote to postpone, but it all has to pass with 2/3. So both have to be passed. I'm going off Robert's rules right now, because the motion Isaiah passed died. I can backtrack myself as chair of this meeting right now, and and say, we can pass the motion Isaiah asked for and have 2/3 vote and pass, but we first have to make sure that the motion that Unique passed, which was second, gets a vote on it too.
Good question.
Point of order.
Lieutenant,
Isaiah's motion didn't die, cause I seconded it.
you seconded it after there was already a different discussion.
And
on
I
the
rose my
first.
hand when he gave the motion, I rose my hand and you called on everybody else before me.
I did not see you raise your hand.
My hand
I was trying to go in order as everyone was raising their
I
hand.
understand that, even though the way I'm putting this, he said something, I rose my hand, say, Senator Dean rose his hand, and Senator Nakara rose her hand. If you saw those two hands before me, and they raised their hand, you called them, then you called them. If you wanna get into a stepping out of order, then I could've just spoken out of order, but I was trying to give you the floor the proper way. And-
Senator,
May I address Senator Lieutenant?
oh, I'm sorry.
Point of order.
Senator Nikki was first, I'm sorry.
I hear what you're saying, Madam Vice President, but the question, the clarity that I'm looking for is, just because you get put under presidential review does not mean if the president, if Eric says you are good, back in good standings, even though you're under presidential review, can't you still be elected for vice president or president? Yes or no?
Point of order.
No. So what they're asking is, their question is, because they're under presidential review, they can't apply. So right now, the whole issue is, we're trying to pass an amendment. If the amendment passes, then they have to have 1 year experience in SGA before they can apply for president or vice president.
Do they have 1 year experience?
Neither of them do. This is their first semester in SGA.
Okay, so now it's making more sense. Going back to what, Finance Shirley said, so in the Constitution, what was the misinterpretation? What is currently in the Constitution that is making y'all amend it?
The wording, if I'm not mistaking what Pirelli was saying, the wording in the Constitution allows you to interpret it however you may please. So you can come back and rebuttal that you do not need a year's worth of experience, because it doesn't specify it directly.
Let me ask this, if Chris and Laterrence and I don't even know, Nakira and Dean, I know I can't because I graduated in May, if we don't have that many black senators. So if you knock 2 of them out that is gonna be here for a duration of time, then it does look like what Senator Marshall is saying, that you guys are asking to pass this amendment, which is gonna disqualify them, which is gonna leave us with nobody to be able to run for that executive position. And what
They can still submit their application. If they meet the requirements, their application goes through. If they don't meet the requirements, they get an email notification saying that they don't meet the requirements. Does that make sense? No one is preventing them from applying. Everyone can apply.
Okay, you
But
can
if you
apply,
don't
but
if you don't meet the qualifications for that application, then your application, I don't know the process of that.
Right.
I don't handle that.
Right, but what I'm telling you is if we pass this amendment, this is automatically gonna eliminate 2 of our African-American senators from running for executive position. That is where the problem is gonna come in at.
Can I address the other concerns?
Yeah.
Isaiah?
May I address Senator Lieutenant?
Yes, sir.
Okay, according to Robert rules, you don't have to be called upon to second the motion, so you didn't have to raise your hand, you could have just said it. And secondly, also according to Robert's rules, we're supposed to go directly to voting after there's a second on anything, so we should have already voted on. So maybe we move to.
I think we voted something that's in.
He had his hand before.
So as Senator Isaiah was saying, he is correct. Anybody is free to second that motion. If you raise your hand, it was probably misinterpreted for a question, but you can always say it right after someone motions it. Anybody, like we've done it before, anybody can second it. Then from there, it does move into discussion. However, it was not seconded by anyone, so the motion dies. Reason being, you seconded way after it was discussed, so that's why the motion died.
Senator Perez had his hand up.
Do we have a copy of the senator contract?
I have a copy of it.
Can I see that copy?
neither in the Constitution or the bylaws does it state, to the board, neither in the Constitution or the bylaws does it
Just to
state.
be addressed by the chair. before you
I was addressed by the chair when she addressed me to stand up to ask that question. I'm still speaking on my time and I'm gonna reclaim it. Thank you. On this, in the Constitution and the bylaws, it doesn't say anything about a student law, but our senator contract does. Neither on the student contract does there mention any type of deadline when turning in your activity logs. For a senator as myself that attended over 120 events and 60 of those being events for SGA, there should be no reason that I should be placed on presidential review, even in good standing, even when there is no mention on that contract for deadlines for student loans.
Deadlines are not given in the contract, deadlines are given by me when we decide on them through the email that I
It should be
addressed.
placed in the bylaws and the Constitution as well.
In the bylaws and the Constitution, if I'm not mistaken, it says that I can handle the Senate as I feel necessary, which is why we do emails and which is why I give y'all emails with deadlines so that it's still on paper.
At the next meeting, could you point that out?
Yes, of course.
Also, myself, I've been a senator for SGA for 3 consecutive terms. That, if you would like to count the summertime, when I was up here. So just 2, okay. Not only that, as far as experience-wise, I serve as co-director and president of other organizations that use Robert's Rules of Orders. So therefore, I do have experience in that aspect. The other thing that comes into question relates to not handling business. For a person that has, as a senator, attend every meeting, and when I don't, I follow those procedures. I also attend events and also put in service hours with SGA as a representative.
Senator Marshall, if I may,
Yes.
if you still have concerns in regards to how you are under presidential review, I would ask for you to please email me and the president so we can handle that situation outside of the General Assembly meeting.
Also, that wasn't a motion, so you couldn't second that. That was.
Please address me and only me and the board.
Since that wasn't a second, a motion, you can, second that, and we're going by Robert's Rules of Order. So in that, what I'm stating, this amendment and those procedures were out of order because it wasn't listed in bylaws in the Constitution.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
You brought up, that information that you can run the Senate as any way that you like. But I'm just stating, simply in the Constitution and bylaws, and also in the student contract, when it comes to being placed in that review, and also, for this amendment that we're proposing, it does present this far impact and treatment to representatives that are running for those positions to represent, the student body, and this should be left upon the student body to have a vote upon, and not have, people disqualified for it to prevent them from running for those offices.
Alright, due to short on time, we are gonna go ahead and move on to voting. So, Chair.
That comes to our end of the debate of the going back and forth questions. Now we're gonna go ahead and bring the motion to a vote. And everybody for the vote, please raise your hand so we can have a head count.
Can you, restate that?
I want to call it from the board.
I'm sorry?
I'll call it from the board.
Okay.
Raise my hand to speak. You.
We are moved past questions, we are into voting.
And I'm calling the point of order.
Yeah, point of order for.
I raised my hand, I wasn't addressed, because I was trying to move to postpone vote like a number of us senators have asked for, even after he said it, even if it dies, if I want to move to postpone as well, I can also call to move to postpone and someone can second it. But instead, knowing that I wanted to move to second what he said, and I didn't do it at the proper time when I'm raising my hand to actually do it, you're shutting me down so that I won't do it, so that you can enforce a vote on something that you want voted on.
Yes, we need to move forward, just the reason that we have not even passed one topic first. Second of all, we are short on time, and as parliamentarian, I can call to order to focus on the subject, and so we can finish the meeting on time. Everybody has their own schedule, so we need to move on.
And being as how my postponement is part of this topic and this idea, and knowing that there's multiple senators out here that wants that as well, you're cutting off me to bring it and for it to be seconded. So what you're saying is essentially you want it voted on and you don't want to postpone, even though 1 senator, 2 senators, 3 senators, 4 senators have also, we have senators leaving. And you're basically saying that that's what you want as the parliamentarian, vice president, executive board, instead of an actual, right now I'm calling to postpone the vote on this amendment until another time.
I'll make a motion to table a current motion until next meeting.
I second it.
No.
No.
one has been released.
Unless you have lots.
This motion has now been tabled for discussion until next meeting. Advisor's not here, so we do not have advisor's comments. Can I get a motion to adjourn our meeting, please?
I would like to motion to adjourn our meeting.
Thank you, Senator Isaiah. Can I get a second? Thank you. Meeting adjourned at 1:03 p.m.